Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? This time we're going to China to check out this startup called DeepSeek that's kind of like shaking up the AI world a bit.
Yeah, they're pretty interesting for sure.
They're building AI models that, well, people say are rivaling some of the big names out there like, OpenAI and Meta,
And the thing is, they're doing it for way less money.
like way cheaper.
Way cheaper.
Yeah, and that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is, especially when their DeepSeek AI assistant is, like right now, it's at the top of the App Store beating out ChatGPT.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive.
Yeah, no kidding. It's definitely got people talking.
Yeah, for sure. So today we're gonna try to unpack this a little bit, see how they're pulling it off, who's behind it all.
Right, right. Like, where did this company even come from? What's the secret sauce?
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, this is bigger than just one company, right? This is about the future of AI, who's going to control it, what it means for all of us.
It's a lot to dive into.
Yeah, it is.
So let's start with like the tech itself. Their models, DeepSeek-V3 and DeepSeek-R1, those are the ones making headlines. What makes them like so different aside from being, cheaper?
Well, yeah, everyone's talking about the cost, right? But they're also getting a lot of praise for like actually being good. Like they're right up there with the big guys in terms of how well they work.
Okay, but like how much cheaper are we talking?
Oh, it's a lot. Like DeepSeek R1, the one they're really pushing, it's like some estimates say it's 20, maybe even 50 times cheaper to run than OpenAI's O1 model.
50 times.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's wild.
It is.
Like, what does that even mean for like the whole AI world? It's not just about saving a few bucks.
No, not at all. This could like completely change the game. Think about it. Suddenly, it's not just the big companies that can afford to play with this stuff.
Right.
Small startups, research teams, even just like individual developers, they could all have access to really powerful AI tools.
So it's like leveling the playing field, kind of. Yeah, exactly. It's democratizing AI, making it so anyone with a good idea can get in on the action.
So that could lead to like a whole lot more innovation, right? More people trying things, experimenting.
That's the hope, yeah. Like imagine a small medical research team suddenly being able to use cutting-edge AI to like discover new drugs or like independent filmmakers being able to use AI for special effects that used to cost a fortune.
Yeah, I see how that would be like a game changer.
Yeah, no doubt.
But wouldn't there also be like some downside? I mean, wouldn't this also lead to a lot of like bad AI being created? Like if it's so cheap and easy, anyone could just make a model, even if they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a valid concern for sure. There's always a risk that like as things become more accessible, the overall quality might go down.
Right.
But so far from what we've seen, DeepSeek's models, they seem to be pretty solid. They're holding their own against the competition. The real test is going to be like, can they keep that up as they grow bigger? Can they maintain the quality while also keeping the costs down?
Right.
It'll be interesting to watch. This could force the big players to like rethink how they do things. Maybe they'll have to lower their prices or come up with ways to be more efficient themselves.
Yeah, it's like DeepSeek is putting pressure on the whole industry to step up their game.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got this company, DeepSeek, and they've got this amazing tech that's making waves.
Yeah.
But like, who are these guys? Where'd they come from?
Well, the founder, his name's Liang Wenfeng, and he's got a pretty interesting background. He actually comes from the world of quantitative hedge funds.
Quantitative hedge funds.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's basically like using really complicated math and algorithms to like make money in the stock market.
Oh, okay. So like super data driven.
Yeah, totally. And that's actually pretty interesting considering DeepSeek's whole thing is about AI.
Right. So maybe there's like some connection there, some skills or knowledge he brought from the finance world to AI.
It's possible, yeah. And it gets even weirder. The hedge fund he was with, High Flyer, they decided to like completely shift gears.
Really?
Yeah. They went from trading to focusing on artificial general intelligence, AGI.
AGI, that's the super intelligent AI, right?
Yeah.
The kind that's supposed to be as smart as humans or even smarter.
Yeah, that's the one. It's like the holy grail of AI research. The idea is to create a machine that can like think and learn and solve problems just like a human, or even better.
So this hedge fund just decided one day, hey, let's try to create a super intelligence.
Basically, yeah.
That's a pretty big leap.
It is, but it's like OpenAI, they're all about AGI too. They think it has the potential to like revolutionize everything.
Right. So what's the connection between High Flyer and DeepSeek? Like, are they working together?
Well, it's a little murky. They share office space, for one thing.
Yeah.
And there are like patents that link them, stuff related to AI chip clusters. And there are reports that Highflyer used to own a ton of A100 chips, like thousands of them.
A100 chips, those are the ones that are like essential for training AI models, right?
Exactly.
So they've got the resources, the expertise, and the connection to AGI research. What are they trying to do?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
There's like this whole other layer to the story.
It is.
Okay, so we've got DeepSeek, this startup disrupting the AI scene with cheap and powerful tech, founded by a guy from the world of finance who's got ties to this company, chasing the dream of superintelligence. Where do we even go from here?
Well, next we got to talk about the elephant in the room,
The
China.
geopolitical side of all this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what does DeepSeek's rise mean for the global balance of power?
It's getting interesting, folks. Stay with us. So before the break, we were talking about like this connection DeepSeek has to AGI research. And it's like, whoa, this is getting complicated.
Yeah, it's like you peel back one layer and there's a whole other layer underneath.
And then you've got China in the mix too, which always adds another dimension to things.
Right, exactly. Like, you can't talk about AI these days without talking about the US and China and how they're both like racing to be number one.
It's like a tech Cold War or something.
Yeah, kind of. And you gotta wonder, like, where does DeepSeek fit into all of this? Are they just this like independent startup doing their own thing, or are they part of something bigger?
Like, is this part of some grand plan by the Chinese government to dominate the AI world?
That's the million-dollar question. And there are definitely some signs that point in that direction. Like, remember how DeepSeek-R1 was launched on the same day their founder had a meeting with the Chinese premier?
Right, right. Like, that's not a coincidence.
It's pretty unusual, right? For a startup founder to be meeting with the premier, especially on the same day they launch a major product.
Yeah, it's like, it's almost too perfect.
Yeah. It does make you wonder. And then you've got, like, last year, the CEO of Baidu, Robin Lai, he had a similar meeting with the government, and they were talking about AI development, too.
So it's not just DeepSeek. It seems like the Chinese government is, like, really serious about AI.
Oh, yeah. They've made it very clear that they want to be the global leader in AI by 2030.
They see it as, like, the key to their future economically and, I guess, militarily, too.
Exactly. They see AI as essential for their, like, national security and their ability to compete with the U.S. on the world stage.
Right, and especially with the U.S. putting all these restrictions on AI chips, China wants to be able to do their own thing without relying on anyone else.
Exactly. They want to be self-sufficient.
So DeepSeek could be a big part of that plan. Like, if they can make AI that's just as good as what the U.S. is making, but cheaper.
Right. Then China doesn't need to rely on American companies or technology.
It's like DeepSeek is their secret weapon or something.
It's possible. And, it's not just about the tech itself. It's also about, like, the message it sends.
What do you mean?
Like, DeepSeek is kind of a symbol, right? It shows that China can innovate, that they can compete with the U.S. in the most cutting-edge fields.
Yeah, it's a bit of a PR coup for them, too.
Definitely. It changes the narrative. It's not just the U.S. leading the way anymore.
It's like a David and Goliath story.
Yeah, exactly. This little startup from China taking on the giants of Silicon Valley.
And winning.
So far, yeah. It's pretty impressive.
But how will the U.S. respond to all this?
That's a good question. Will they just sit back and watch, or will they, like, double down on their own AI efforts?
I mean, they can't be happy about this.
No, I doubt it. This is a direct challenge to their dominance.
So maybe this will actually lead to, like, even faster progress in AI. Like, now that there's real competition, both sides will be pushing harder.
That's one possibility, yeah. Competition can be a good thing. It can drive innovation.
But it could also lead to, like, an AI arms race, right?
That's the worry. Like, what happens if both sides just keep pouring more and more resources into AI without really thinking about the consequences?
It could get out of hand pretty quickly.
Yeah, it could. And that's why it's so important to have, like, international cooperation to make sure that AI is developed responsibly.
It's not just about being the first or the best. It's about making sure AI is used for good, not for harm.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've gone from the technical details of DeepSeek's models to this whole, like, geopolitical chess match between the U.S. and China. This is getting pretty intense.
Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around, but it's important stuff. This is about the future, not just of AI, but of the world.
So before we look ahead, let's recap what we've learned so far. DeepSeek is this startup that's making waves with its cheap and powerful AI models, but they also have these ties to AGI research and the Chinese government. And now we're talking about a potential AI arms race between the US and China. It's a lot.
It is, but it all comes back to this fundamental question. What is the future of AI? Where's all of this heading?
And that's what we're going to explore when we come back. So stick with us, because this is where things get really interesting. All right, so we've seen how DeepSeek is shaking things up, but the big question is, like, what happens next? Can they keep this going?
Right, like they've made a splash, but can they actually, swim in the deep end?
Exactly. So what are, like, the biggest challenges they're facing right now?
Well, one thing that's going to be tough is like scaling up. They're still a pretty small company, and to really compete with the big guys, they're going to need to grow like a lot.
Right, more people, more resources, more everything.
Yeah, and that's not always easy, especially when you're trying to like maintain the quality of your product and keep the costs down.
Like a balancing act.
Totally. And then there's a whole like geopolitical thing. We talked about how DeepSeek could be seen as a threat by some countries, especially the US.
Yeah, that could definitely create some problems for them.
For sure. Like, imagine the US decides to put sanctions on them or restrict their access to certain technologies.
That would be a major setback.
Definitely. So yeah, DeepSeek's got a lot of challenges ahead.
But, like, also a lot of potential, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like, if they can overcome these hurdles, they could really become a major player in the AI world.
Like, imagine if they actually succeed in making AI accessible to everyone, not just the big companies.
That would be huge. Like, think about all the small businesses, the researchers, the individual developers who could suddenly use AI to do amazing things.
It could, like, unleash a wave of innovation.
Yeah, totally. We could see breakthroughs in healthcare, education, you name it.
So DeepSeek's story is, like, far from over. They could become this, like, global phenomenon, or they could stumble and fade away.
It's really hard to say at this point. There are just so many factors at play.
So let's zoom out a bit and think about the bigger picture. What are some other, like, potential scenarios for the future of AI? Like, what are the best case and worst case possibilities?
Okay, so best case scenario, AI continues to develop in a positive way, and we see breakthroughs that benefit humanity in all sorts of ways.
Like curing diseases, solving climate change, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But, there's also the flip side. Like, what if AI gets out of control? What if it leads to mass unemployment? Or even, like, some kind of AI takeover?
Okay, that's getting a little scary.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. Like, we need to be careful about how we develop and use AI.
It's a powerful tool, and we need to make sure it's used for good.
Absolutely. And that's going to require, like, a lot of collaboration, not just between countries, but also between researchers, policymakers, and the public.
It's not just a tech issue, it's a societal issue.
Right. We all need to be part of the conversation about how AI is shaping our world.
So that's it for our deep dive into DeepSeek and the future of AI. It's been a wild ride. It has. We've talked about cutting-edge tech, shady corporate connections, global power struggles, and even the possibility of an AI apocalypse.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But one thing's for sure. This story is far from over. The future of AI is still being written, and it's up to all of us to make sure it's a future we want to live in.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.